I made this dress a couple of years ago, both as a homage to the viral strawberry dress, which was admittedly about 3 years before I actually made this dress, and also because I wanted something pink to wear when my sister and I went to see the Barbie movie. So, as you can see, I did finish it, get it into a wearable state, but I decided pretty early on that there were a couple of alterations I wanted to make, namely with these flutter sleeves. What I did was I cut a circle and then I cut the radius of the circle so that it had a slit in it, which I used as the shoulder seam, which means basically there's a big pleat at the top rather than a consistent flutter all the way around. So it fits and it flutters, but it frequently flips back so that all you see is the inside, which is, a perfectly respectable fabric, but not quite the same as the outside, what with it being a one-sided print. So my plan is unpick the bias tape from around the sleeves, cut the circle all the way in half, so I have two semicircles. I'm not going to fully detach it, but use the front piece as the outer fabric, get that all the way around the top of the sleeve, and use the other semicircle as the lining fabric inside, so that when it flips up, you have the strawberry fabric on both sides. Then I'm going to rebind it with the bias tape. I also left the insides seams raw around most of the hem. I finished the seams on the bodice, but there's still some stuff that I might want to tack down, while I'm fixing things. But, since I'm finishing it, I might as well finish it all the way. But of course, first I will need to get pepper off of it. Is this your bed now? I have cut the bias off of the sleeve and armhole and cut the sleeve cap in half. Now I am sewing what has become the inner and outer sleeve, or the sleeve and the lining, to the armhole. And I think that I will finish doing that and go around the edge with the bias tape again before I get started on the other sleeve. Since I'm going to be binding the edges, this step is technically unnecessary, but I've decided to baste the lining and outer sleeve together around the edge, just so that I'm not trying to avoid stabbing myself with pins while I get the bias tape in place. Well, after getting it all basted into place, I realized I made a mistake. You see how the print, it's not really a directional print, so it's not super obvious, but it goes kind of down on this side of the sleeve and out on this side of the sleeve. I was hoping to arrange it so that it would go down on the front half of the dress. Yes, I did a front closure. And out on the back of the dress rather than the other way. So when I fix the second sleeve, I will either be mindful of that, or I will deliberately make the same mistake and call it a style choice for consistency. Stay tuned. That was the first mistake I noticed, but not the first one I made. So, what I have learned from this is that I don't like flutter sleeves in printed cotton, because either they flop back and show the unprinted printed side, or if lined, they are too stiff and supported. So next time I do a flutter sleeve, I should use a dyed fabric that has the color on both sides. And if I want to do sleeves out of printed cotton, then I will need to do a different sleeve style. So for this shirt, I'm thinking, of course pepper isn't exactly the spot that I want to use as an example, that I will, stop biting me, try and get some of this raspberry print or a similar print, or possibly try and find some more of this green fabric that I used for the ruffle. I don't have any more of any of the fabrics that I used for this dress, so I can't just experiment with bigger pieces. And I will try to do a t-shirt style sleeve. I could also do it sleeveless, but I cut the armholes pretty big, so I don't think that I want to do that. So, in diagram form, this is what was happening originally. This is how I tried to fix it, and what that actually turned out looking like. And this is one of the ways that might have turned out better if I had had sufficient fabric for it. If I had done a longer semicircle, so not really a semicircle, but I'm not sure what a semi-oval would be called. Anyway, if I had done a longer curved piece of fabric and gathered it, then I might have gotten the ruffle look that I was hoping for. Worth noting, I did not actually look up how to make a flounce sleeve until after I had already made this dress. So how you would actually do it, and which I wouldn't have had enough fabric for anyway, is you cut a bigger circle and a smaller circle out of it for the armhole, sort of like an asymmetrical circle skirt. Technically, you can also center the armhole in doing a flounce sleeve, but then you end up with a lot of the fabric in your armpit where nobody can see it, and it's probably not going to be as comfortable. So, leave a comment saying if you think the next attempt at the sleeve should be pink, green, or more of a red. Thumbs up and subscribe!